submission of African knowledge, your proud host today. This is a ministerial press conference to address the commencement of the campaign to record oral history and collect liberation war artifacts for the Museum of African Liberation that is being coordinated from the Office of the President and Cabinet in association with the Institute of African Knowledge. It's 40 years after the end of the war that gave us independence, the cemeteries of our country are increasingly becoming the richest places because all the stories are going. So we are saying we are not going to allow one more person to die with their story. Let's record it, let's get the artifacts. So 40 years, that's the time that the gospel was written. 40 years after Jesus Christ had left the earth. So as Ambassador Campbell likes to say, we are still within the legal range. Without further ado, allow me to welcome the chairperson of the Institute of African Knowledge, Professor Silvester, to give us an opening remarks. Deputy Minister of Defense, War, Veterans Affairs, Comrade Madani, on behalf of the Minister, Honorable Okam Chinguri Kashiri, and the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Cultural Heritage, in place of Honorable Kazembe. The Institute of African Knowledge Chief Executive Officer, Ambassador Kwame Zawadi, what is your Secretary for War Veterans and War Collaboration, the collaborators, ex-political detainees, and restrictees, Comrade Douglas Mahia, Commander of the Defense Forces, General Valeria Sibanda, Director of National Museums, Dr. Mahati, Director of National Museum, Mr. D.T. Maboreke, media House representatives here present, comrades and friends, ladies and gentlemen. Today marks an important day in our quest to preserve our legacy as a nation. And today, nothing excites me more greatly than to publicly declare our intention of collecting the valuable pieces of our history and recording them. So it is for that reason why we are gathered here today, to have that message clearly sent out to both our Liberation War stakeholders, which involves those who were actively involved and those who supported the struggle in their various ways. The campaign to record oral history and collect Liberation War artifacts from museums of African liberation is a project which seeks to identify key pieces of our history, capture and record the legacy for the purposes of preserving our history. This whole effort is founded on our Pan-African orientation, and we seek to tell our Liberation War efforts with an African narrative to our liberation struggle. The big idea is that our efforts of recording oral evidence and capturing the various pieces of information around our Liberation War must lead to the establishment of a museum which will have the various stories, images, and artifacts to help us tell the story of our of our independence. The museum will be based in Zimbabwe, but will not be exclusively a Zimbabwean project. The museum will encompass other African countries that fought liberation wars like ourselves in the other part of the last century. It is this aspect, Pan-African aspect of the project, which makes it even more deserving of our support. We owe it to His Excellency, Comrade Mnangagwa, for the fact that this project is now coming to life. It is easy to have ideas, but it is not, it is difficult to make those ideas take life. And it is really because of the support which President Mnangagwa has given to INSTEC that this project is now coming to life. And we owe it to ourselves, first of all as Zimbabweans, as supporters of the President, to make this idea a success. INSTEC has committed itself to this project in spite of the fact that it is a very difficult project to realize. But we are committed to it, one, because we are Zimbabwean, but also because we are Africans. When this project is realized, the whole of Africa will see that Zimbabwe means what it says.
Zimbabwe has already shown that it can lead in African ideas by publishing the Fact Book of Africa, which was launched by His Excellency the President together with President Ramaphosa last month. In a similar way, when this project of the museum is complete, it will be a glory not just for Africa, but for Zimbabwe as well, because it is Zimbabwe which will have propelled it into existence. As such, various stakeholders, ministries have been identified and activated to involve in one way or another to support the efforts of capturing and recording our Liberation War history. What we do in this country will be an example of what other African countries should also do to record their own history in their own countries, but which will be warehoused here in Zimbabwe. And it is for that reason that we must all put our heads and hands together to make sure that this project comes into fruition as soon as possible. So it is my distinguished privilege and honor to welcome and thank you all for making time to come through to be part of this historic event. We thank our honorable ministers for making the time out of their hectic and busy schedules to come and share with us the vision and direction of the project. We also thank members of the media fraternity for coming through to cover the event, and it is my hope that the engagement today will amplify this noble and historic project of capturing and recording our history for future generations. I now invite our honorable ministers to address us.
Thank you very much, Professor Silvester, the chairperson of the Institute of African Knowledge. He's also himself a moving museum and library, because the famous Lancaster House conference, he was there. And we hope that we will also get some access, maybe to pay that the Lancaster House. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to request a ministerial statement from the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazembe Kazembe, who is represented by the Deputy Minister, Comrade Mike Mario. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. Following the chairman's example, I hope I'm also allowed to take off my mask. There's already stated that I am representing the Minister of Home Affairs, who could not make it because of national duty. Allow me, the Director of Ceremonies, to recognize the chairperson, the fourth chairperson of the Institute of African Knowledge, Professor Silvester. Let me recognize the Deputy Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs, with also our national political commissar in the ruling party, Honorable Mr. Matema. Let me recognize the presence of the Secretary for Veterans Affairs in the Political Bureau, Comrade Douglas Magia. Let me recognize the Commander of the Defense Forces, General P. Isbala in absentia. The other board members here present, the Chief Executive Officer for the Institute of African Knowledge, Ambassador Kwame Muzala, senior government officials here present, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. It is indeed an honor and pleasure for my ministry to be here today in support of the Institute of African Knowledge Initiative on behalf of the African continent to establish in Zimbabwe a Museum of African Liberation. When established and functional, the Museum of African Liberation will be the window through which the complex story and experiences of Africa's liberation will be showcased. Different countries in Africa struggled for their liberation in different ways and at different times. And it is this multi-layered narrative that the Museum of African Liberation will explore and present in a museum exhibition to different audiences, both local and international. The reconstitution of the African liberation story can only successfully happen through extensive research as well as the collection of objects and documents to support and illustrate that narrative. Collection or recording of liberation war history from individuals and communities that hosted liberation war fighters as well as recording personal accounts of the fighters themselves is a critical and unavoidable requirement in reconstructing credible accounts surrounding the prosecution of liberation war. Hence, this campaign we are launching today. Recording of our liberation war information and collection of related assets, which the Institute of African Knowledge is launching, is therefore an exciting national project, particularly for my ministry given its national heritage protection mandate as enshrined in the National Museum and Monument Act, Chapter 2511, and the National Archives Act, Chapter 25.6. The National Museums and Monuments Act, which we are currently reviewing, substantially mandates my ministry to establish and administer museums and heritage sites, whilst the National Archives Act gives us the national responsibility to store and preserve public archives and public records, a lot of which relates to our history and Zimbabwe's struggle for liberation. In 1994, government formally handed over to my ministry the Zimbabwe Liberation Heritage Protection and Management mandate. From this point on, it becomes the responsibility of my ministry through National Museums and Monuments of Zimbabwe to identify, document, and rehabilitate various liberation struggle shrines that have been established following Zimbabwe's attainment of independence. The rehabilitation work, which was also accompanied by documentation of the shrines, took place throughout the country, in Zambia and in Mozambique, where the main real basis for our liberation movement has been established. Further, government pronounced the necessity of establishing a revolutionary museum as part of the National Heroes Era to commemorate and immortalize the main heroes and heroines who died for Zimbabwe's freedom, as well as to tell the story of our liberation in its totality, through displaying materials and other objects related to the freedom struggle. It was in pursuit of this vision by government that a visual proposal on the establishment of a revolutionary museum was produced and accepted for implementation in 2005 under the Public Sector Investment Program. As part of implementing this proposal, my ministry launched the oral history project to mobilize information for the museum storyline, and the exercise was done as a collaboration between the National Archives, the History Department at the University of Zimbabwe, and the National Museum and Movement of Zimbabwe. The exercise was intended to cover all the country's districts, but budgetary constraints restricted coverage to only Tirezi, Choloto, Gwanda, and Gutu districts. Mobilization of information pertinent to the reconstruction of our liberation history has also been happening through other activities undertaken by the ministry. For example, the process of gazetting some of the liberation war sites as national movement is preceded by digital documentation, and the research was the repatriation of migrated liberation war archives is allowing researchers access to critical information that has hitherto been beyond their reach. From the foregoing, it is abundantly clear that there should be synergies with the Institute of African Knowledge for their objective to establish a Museum of African Liberation, and my ministry's mandate to develop a Zimbabwe Liberation Museum to successfully happen. The Zimbabwe Liberation story, as seen in the Museum of African Liberation, should reflect the story that underpins the Zimbabwe Liberation Museum. The story is the same, hence the imperative for collaboration and partnership. Further, the informants from whom the oral history will come should be regarded as one source. Information generated has to be shared, and so should the objects collected during the oral history campaign. My ministry's commitment and support for the establishment of the Museum of African Liberation, as well as the commitment of recording oral history and collection of Zimbabwe's Liberation War artifacts, is therefore unwavering. The ministry has expertise and practical experience in museum concept development, which will avail in the interest of the ensuring that Zimbabwe successfully establishes this continental museum. But as we develop the Zimbabwe chapter of the museum, we have to be fully cognizant of the fact that this chapter is essentially a reflection of the Zimbabwe Liberation Museum that my ministry is also currently working on. The critical need for a partnership is clearly demonstrated, and this could be formalized through the signing of a memorandum of understanding between my ministry and the Institute of African Knowledge. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, may I conclude by saying that a people without a history, a people without culture, is a people without identity. I think it's going to be.
Thank you very much, Comrade Madiro, Deputy Minister for Cultural Heritage, who was speaking on behalf of Honorable Kazimbe, the Minister. We go on to the next segment of the program, which is yet again a ministerial statement from the Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs, Honorable Okam Chinguri Kashiri, who is here represented by the Deputy Minister, Comrade Victor Matemagana. Comrade Deputy Minister.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Master of Ceremonies, may I be allowed to recognize the presence of the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazembe Kazembe, represented by the Deputy Minister, Comrade Madiba, the Institute of African Knowledge Board Chairperson, Comrade Professor Zimbabwean, the Institute of African Knowledge Chief Executive Officer, Ambassador Kwame Muzawa, Police Bureau Secretary for the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle, Comrade Douglas Mahia, the Commander, Defense Forces, General Philip Valerio Svanda, Director of National Museums, Dr. G. Mahachi, Director of National Museums, Mr. D.T. Mahoreke, media houses present, comrades and friends, ladies and gentlemen. And now I'm going to start with the As Zimbabweans, we are here presented with an opportunity to capture and document our liberation history, narrated as first-hand information from our living veterans who took part in the armed struggle. It is important that the history of our liberation is captured from our own perspective as a people of Zimbabwe. It is with a warm heart that we are gathered here to affirm our ministry's commitment to the noble cause of capturing and documenting our historical heritage, more so paying particular attention to the actual process which gave birth to our nation, Zimbabwe. We are excited to be involved in the Museum of African Liberation History. We are excited to be liberation struggle efforts the world over, from the basis of which nations are founded, and Zimbabwe is not an exception in that regard. The fact that our sons and daughters took it upon themselves to sacrifice their perceived then normal life, only to go and join the liberation struggle, bears a testimony to the fact that Zimbabwe was not delivered on a silver platter. Lives and lives were lost, all in a bid to deliver a new baby called Zimbabwe. It therefore goes without any need for emphasis that such efforts and sacrifices must be properly captured and documented as a national treasure. Such information treasure must be properly collected, documented, archived, and shared with our post-liberation struggle and future generations. This selfless sacrifice made by our people during the armed struggle, which brought about our freedom, has to be preserved. The Ministry of Defense is therefore a major stakeholder in this project, as we are the custodians of the register of all the surviving comrades and where they are located. The Ministry of Defense is the living archive of the armed struggle in Zimbabwe. The Ministry of Defense, henceforth, commits itself to partner in this legacy project through providing accurate and authentic content and information around our armed struggle. Our war veterans will be available to give oral testimonials as we seek to enrich the content collected under this project. Our view is that the Zimbabwe liberation story will not be complete if we did not talk about key events in our history, which includes, but not exclusive, the Muntapa state and its influence on our trade as the people of Zimbabwe. Also, the colonization of Zimbabwe by our colonizers, and then the first and second millennium, and the 1980 political independence, and other outstanding national grievances which still need our attention. I think on this one it is important for me to say we still have outstanding contradictions and misunderstandings, especially around the land issue. But it being the prime grievance for waging the liberation struggle, it still has not been solved into finality. Hence, time and again, you see it coming with a lot of distorted interpretation from different people. But if anyone wants a true story of the land question, this is the time now to ask the people that were involved what they fought for, what was the prime grievance of the liberation struggle. If it is not land, then we have no tangible grievance. But from our understanding and knowledge, the main reason for the liberation armed struggle was the alienation of the African people from the land of their forefathers. Hence, it became a prime grievance. The Ministry of Defense comes in as a strategic partner with a network of contacts and resource persons from outside Zimbabwe, whose collaborative efforts cannot be ignored, as they also played an integral part to our liberation by providing priceless support to our struggle for freedom. A number of African nations and others beyond Africa also contributed to the success of our struggle. As such, they will be very resourceful to the cause through our ministry. The Ministry of Defense will facilitate such contacts and information are exchanged to ensure the success of this process. It is our view as a ministry that the museum will house and showcase the various artifacts and artillery hardware used during the armed liberation struggle. Such artifacts will be availed by the Ministry of Defense as a sign of our support. In conclusion, we would like to reaffirm our commitment to the project of recording, collection of the priceless history of the liberation and the struggle of Zimbabwe as told by us Zimbabweans. We would also like to call upon all individuals, organizations, and institutions who have a role to play in our liberation struggle to brace up for supporting this project by providing as much vital and accurate information, indications, or aspects which will help us tell a complete story around our liberation struggle. We now wish the Institute for African Knowledge all the best in its venture, and we assure you of our full support as we all seek to tell the Zimbabwean story of liberation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Deputy Minister Victor Matimalanda from the Ministry of Defense and War Veterans Affairs, speaking on behalf of Honorable Kopa Chibwe. Allow me also to recognize the presence of Dr. P.T. Kuta from the Office of the President and Cabinet. As we move forward, we now request remarks from Zambia, the Revolutionary Party, here represented by the Politburo Secretary for War Veterans, War Collaborators, ex-political prisoners, and restrictees, Comrade Douglas Maria. Comrade Secretary.
Thank you very much. The Chairman of the African Institute of African Knowledge, Ambako, the CEO, our own Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Bureau, our Deputy Minister for Defense, Matimalanda. Allow me to say all protocols of affairs. I won't be here very long because I believe that a lot is already being done to address 40 years or a very long-standing issue that requires to be done as early as, say, 3 years after independence in 1983, 84, 85. But it is evident that maybe had it not been the African Institute, had it not been the Institute of African Knowledge, it would have taken longer to tell the story of the liberation of Africa and Zimbabwe in particular. Ladies and gentlemen, Section 23 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe speaks of honor, recognition, and respect of the veterans of the liberation struggle. As secretary that I lead, and it only came about after the drafting of the new constitution. Ndimengwadza ndinotaura ndichiona nation yedu seisina kuita zvayaifanira kuita, or do not at all take the process of the liberation with the value that it deserves. Because every one person who is here, would have not been here, would it not be the participants in the occasion of the liberation struggle. And the nation needed to be delightful. Inouya yakabata vabereki vedu vachipururudza vachitigamuchira vamba this is not happening, and it's only happening with your leaders now. So we feel honored, we feel respected. Maybe we are now being recognized, I hope. But for the past 40 years, this has not been the case. The Museum of African Liberation has just done us best that we see probably the nation today opening their arms and embracing the provision, the people who provided the material that is required to be in both African Museum and the National Museum. The museum will be an African liberation story telling project, and the artifact is evidence of experiences of the liberation generation. The young people here who is 1980 or so do not think that this thing happened, but as the Institute of African Knowledge and the initiative by Zimbabwe on its own to have its own museum is starting to tell a story, and the young people will start understanding that the war was real. It is also best for the Museum of African Liberation to assist, bring closure to the episode of armed struggle, and have the OAU Liberation, the former OAU Liberation Committee, to find lasting solutions to liberators, rehabilitation programs, and alleviate poverty and improve self-sustainability and contribute to peace and socio-economic development. The OAU former liberation, the former AU Liberation Committee, I want to propose that it should reconstitute and assist what they assisted earlier on. They assisted Africa to be liberated in order to produce the museums that have been talked about today. But we also want to accept this fact that it can only assist when they reconstitute and assist in the current political machinations by our actual enemies to dislodge all governments that we set up from the liberation movement. What it means is that there is a process of being colonized again by our erstwhile enemies. In Africa, must find lasting solutions. Kwenda kungoti mahuko ungani zozemi zakatukona malia na matematanga zanga zakaita si and then we end there. The objective of the liberation struggle here is to totally emancipate a nation, economical, political, and otherwise. Closure of African liberation will also be when the welfare of the African liberators is revisited and revived to set in motion what I've always talked about, which is the DDRR program for liberators, self-reliance and self-sustainability, like I earlier on said. These two obligations that are in that order, I think I need to explain that. It is the DDRR, which is the demobilization of the liberators, because we are talking about the liberation here. And we cannot have the artifacts without talking about the people who created the artifacts or the people who are being described by the story which is being told by both the African Institute and the Zimbabwean Museum. And demobilization was the first thing to be done to them, and disarmament, which is what we are put, rehabilitation and reinsertion. That's where the problem is. Because we cannot be talking about all these other things and forget about the liberators. And the other thing, like what our CEO was saying, and asked him, because I said to try and find out whether there was anything that was discussed about the fighters themselves, besides the idea of being from a single point and then be demobilized, disarmed, in a false start and never be rehabilitation programs. And he said, sure, there was nothing, because I thought I was missing something. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a solid issue. Even if I die today, because it is a source of poverty, whose aspects we want to talk about today. When our deputy minister spoke about their contribution to the arms that are going to be, to the weapons that are going to be made available, those were used in Nesu, Mamota to attention and more, my parents, myself, and other things. Don't you think, ladies and gentlemen, it is proper that we persuade institutions like this one to continue talking about these things? Zimbabwean liberators will make their contributions by storytelling our story, experiences, aspirations, and our desire to fulfill the initial revolutionary fundamentals for economic emancipation and the political development. As the past issues on the drawing board, when before the architects you are looking for were there, if you collect all those, but the end product then fails to be made available. What is the end product? Resistance to colonialism, resistance to neo-colonialism as a nation. But today as a nation, we find part of the society advocating for neo-colonialism. It's just us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are liberators in Zimbabwe. We liberators in Zimbabwe are excited that we have been accepted by the new dispensation to contribute to the political. We are now contributing, we are now elite, we are now accepted. But for the past 40 years, I would never have an opportunity to spell out the principles of the revolution. What is it that those who fought the struggle were saying about our policy or a policy on education, on mining, nationalization and things like that? All those things for those who are with me, they know and we know
that we discussed about that. The party that brought about independence was a government in exile. There was not one department that is functional in government which was not within that political party. It was there, it had principles, it had a way of doing things, but it is not the way that things were done later. So we are saying we thank the current leadership of government, our President Kuman EG, to fulfill one of our desires. It is a desire that was developed by the party to greater heights, to allow me to participate, free to participate in a country that I liberated, which was never before in the last 80 years and in the 40 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are excessively delighted and that this thing is being done, and I think this desire to see policies that addresses, like what the Deputy Minister said, our main national privileges. The return of land to its rightful owners is also part of the story African Museum should include. It is land that we came from and shall return, but survive from it. It constitutes our national economy, hence need for restoration of land and culture in order for the story to be complete, to be a complete African story. The people of Zimbabwe, ladies and gentlemen, we want to see a total closure because we are talking of a story. Pandakanyora pa all level tichita conversation. Muitisha in one day today. You are not going to give you this topic and allow you to go home and write. You will write it here, and I will mark it here. And we wanted what he was going to do. And the 45 members of my class were allowed to do that. And our class teacher, our English class teacher, then did it. Why? How did he do it? How did he see the best of the composition? All he did was to look at the introduction and look at the paragraphing and later go to the conclusion. So for this story to be a complete story, acceptable by the international community and the people of Zimbabwe, it must have a closure, it must have a conclusion. And that conclusion can only be got from the veterans of the liberation struggle. Our aspirations, what are they? Well, I know I'm going to say something to you, because you are in Zimbabwe, they tend to forget that they've got a cultural aspect that they have to live with. And I was saying, the example is the British when they fought about Falkland Islands. They fought, but go to the Falkland Islands, you will never find a British born there. Born, the moon is British. It was taken back to Britain. In Zimbabwe, I want to continue persuading, and I will speak this statement again and again, that is Zimbabwe required to have my bones in my community. Mozambique, Zambia, wherever they are, as much as possible, be taken from where they are and come home. Every woman who could be here, if you have the chance to be pregnant, you must have given birth to a child. And closer to this story requires Lamimai, Kutuvaut, but we are not sure of and on that day, the whole nation must converge and have a closure to the opening story in liberation struggle. Before we get to the artifacts, maybe my other colleagues' bones are going to be artifacts, because when you tell a story in my museum, the African one and the national one, people want to know what happened to the people who died. The Israelites had 40 years, but you found out what I talk about Joseph and Ben. Because we had to go back for to Abraham. And it happened. I want today
to end my story by persuading Zimbabweans in general to give me the support and this aspiration that I see along with nemakomenti mazhinji akaenda kuhondo anozvifarira kuti dai zvaitwa ende zvikaitwa mai vane mwana wavakashaya apana akabata futi anochaisa magazini anochaisa mumuseum vanoti mwana wangu hondo yakaitika vanhu vakafa asi akarara. Saka with this I want to end you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Douglas Maria, Secretary for War Veterans, collaborators, prisoners, and refugees at the political of the Now we need to accept the questions